joining us at the Essential Light Institute. And today, what we've decided to do, as we do every day, but today we're going to do it all together, is let's call some light. I want to start by actually talking about something which is another principle that we have found in our lives, our work, and our teaching to be true. I'm going to demonstrate it to you by a story. So this took place in 1985. I bet that some of you on this call weren't alive in 1985. Here's the scene. I'm sitting in my underpants on the edge of a single bed, which was used by my therapist, whose name was José Alberto Rosa, in the bioenergetic therapy that we did. I had been in therapy with him for 3 years, and on this particular day, I was sitting exhausted, happy in light, now I realize, having done the therapeutic work that I needed to do. And I simultaneously had two understandings. One of the voices inside me, we all have many, said, "Now you're normal," which meant I could live my life relatively healthily, relatively happily, relatively at peace, relatively without the inner angst and torture and pain that I had had for most of my life. So that was a very beautiful moment. I had won a victory, along with this incredible man who was an incredible therapist and became an incredible friend. So that was one moment. That moment lasted 10, 15 seconds. And the next voice said, "So what?" So even though that was not a conscious prayer, it wasn't, "Oh Lord, I really want more in my life than just being relatively okay." That was my prayer. The prayers that we make guide our lives. That prayer, although I had absolutely no conscious idea, nor plan, nor intimation even that I knew about, that I'd be sitting here in front of you today, this many years later, helping you learn and joining you in the calling of light, I had no idea of any of that. But that prayer led to this day. Because those who were listening to me, who had guided me to that incredible Brazilian man who had basically saved my life, and in retrospect had been nudging me in spite of my blockheadedness for all my life, those ones that I came to call my guides, or I came to call those guys, were listening. And they responded to my prayer by beginning step by step, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, to teach me the art of embodying light, which became eventually, right, this was 1985, which became in 2008, gave birth, I should say, to the Essential Light Institute. So today, I'm going to do the best that I can. We will do the best we can to help you learn a little bit about the embodiment of light. Perhaps, I would bet, this is the answer to a prayer of yours. So before I tell you another story, to introduce even more deeply the subject, we're going to do something together. In the past classes that we've done, we had a question. I in particular had a question. Whether joining together in this particular format that we're in, which admittedly is quite strange, I'm here staring into a cyclops eye, imagining all of you sitting in front of your own devices. The question we had is, if we join together in the heart, does it work? And of course, the hypothesis is based on an understanding that we have, which is that on the inner planes, I hope you know what I'm talking about. If you don't, we'll get to talk about it a little later or another time. On the non-physical inner planes, distance and time are completely different. They don't mean the same thing. So I'm sitting here in a room in Talent, Oregon, and you're sitting wherever you are. Right? So there is physical distance. There is lots of air between us. But when we enter into the levels of ourselves, which are beyond time and space, we can join together. And if we learn the art of paying attention underneath our egos and underneath our usual ways of perception, we can actually feel that, see it, sense it, and participate in it. So here's what I'm going to ask you to do, and I'm going to do it here, and all the people who are here with us are going to do it also. I'm going to ask you to close your eyes, and I'm going to ask you to take one of your hands and place it very, very gently over the center of your chest, what we call the heart chakra. And I'm going to ask you to breathe and just pay attention to your breath at the same time as you pay attention to the very slight sensation of your hand touching your chest. And make your way in your vision, in your sensation, in your imagination, to sit right where your hand is. Put your center, your self, however you know that self to be at this moment, right there where your hand is. Like that. See? Now I don't have to imagine you, I can feel you. And if you pay attention to the shift in your own happiness quotient, you're going to feel me too, and you're going to feel all the other people joining us now in this circle of the heart. How easy was that? It's not complicated. It doesn't take any kind of religious affiliation. And in this case, it didn't cost you a penny. Breathe. Just breathe. Now, you can return to this space, not only any time in the next minutes that we're together, but you can return any time that you want to. So what we're going to do for the rest of this time now is we're going to add to this that you've already done, this base. Consider what you just did, the base upon which you're going to build your ability to call light. And in the meantime now, I'm going to tell you another little story. 2 years ago, I was with my wife Jane and my daughter Zara, and we were in Mexico. And we were sitting on a beach. And as a matter of fact, on that beach, we were at a little table, and we were drinking beer and eating shrimp. Nothing was going on. We were on vacation. And I looked out at the ocean, and it was very beautiful. I'm looking across the sand, and I'm looking at people being happy. And I spontaneously, as happens to me sometimes, and I assume happens to you sometimes also, I had a vision with my eyes open. My ability to see shifted enough so that I was looking within what I was looking at, if you understand what I mean. And I saw, with my eyes open, the threads of light that were everywhere. And I wasn't just looking at the reflection of the sun on the ocean. I was looking in the air, inside the air, and I was seeing the threads of light that were everywhere. Huh? It was a very beautiful moment. And at that same moment, there came an understanding, an intuitive understanding. Look what I'm doing with my hands, an intuitive understanding, like the voice of my heart said, light is everywhere. What humans need to do to make use of it and to be made use of by it is to learn how to call it in a focused, authentic, true way. So that in some ways was the answer to the earlier prayer when I was sitting on the bed in my underwear. Because what I also understood in that moment, and it was the culmination of many years of learning, was that ability that I had been taught step by step through my own transformation, through my own ability to connect with my heart. That ability that I had gained to call light is what was the difference between the life I could have lived, which was fine, and the life I was living, which was magnificent. My life from the outside may not look any different than anybody else's. It is the inner experience of light that is the difference in my life between a life that was okay and a life that is as it is, which is, to me, filled with light, so to speak. So that's my motivation. My motivation is to help you to do your version of the same. Because each person's ability to access these spiritual forces, of which light is the base but not the only one, each person's ability is slightly different based on your own particular, as we say, as is the title of my book, is the title of the training we do, based on your own gift of the body. So let's start with that base. And I know that there are people on this who are observing this, who have studied with us, and people who are in your own ways becoming the teachers of this. So you'll hold the space of the heart for the people who are newer. Because I'm going to say a few things that you already know, but as they say, back to the basics is always a good idea. This gift of the body has built into it everything that you need, everything that I need to do everything in my life on this earth. Everything that I get from the outside is an adjunct to that, can help it, but it doesn't create it. And if I don't access, to the extent that I don't access those inner qualities, I am therefore counting on the externals, which are illusory, which can come and go, and I need to cling to the externals like I'm doing now, which creates a tension, which doesn't then allow me to, as we would say, flow, relax, be in a space that is open, calm, centered, and therefore receptive to the arrival of the divine forces, which come when they are called and also come in moments of grace. So today we're talking about light, but in the future we're going to talk about compassion, we're going to talk about faith, we're going to talk about forgiveness, we're going to talk about mercy, we're going to talk about grace, we're going to talk about truth, we're going to talk about justice. All of these are not just concepts, they are divine forces which we have struggled to give language to so that we can have a conversation about them. And because it's what we do as humans, when we filter all those things through our egos, we distort them. But they are pure, accessible, not necessarily religious, but certainly spiritual, spiritual meaning beyond the physical, beyond the material, beyond the mental. They are spiritual forces. The basis, let's say the surfboard that they ride in on, is light. So, what is light? Every spiritual path, true spiritual path, talks in some way about light. The Old Testament of the Bible, right? The first thing that in that concept God said was, let there be light. In the Hindu way of looking at things, which is basically the same, a little more complex, the original divine consciousness, which was living in pure darkness, in its immense love, in its immense also loneliness, exploded its own divine heart, meaning the fountain of all life is the heart, the love of that one divinity, that one original creator, exploded that, and it became light that filled the entire universe and made all of what we call creation. But every path, whether it's one you agree with, whether it's one you don't, if you take away the ideological covering, most of which have to do with we're right and you're wrong and this is the only way and the other ways are wrong. If you take away that covering, that filter, what's left is divine light. Divine light is the source of the mystery, because I can call it light, you may call it something else, but what it does is take us into the space of unity. It takes us beyond our individual self, our individual consciousness, beyond, within this body, within this vehicle, but beyond this vehicle, and connects us automatically through the mechanism that we already have in us, in our heart, connects us automatically, immediately, with everything. But it doesn't connect us, in most cases, with cognitively. It connects us experientially. That experience can come as feeling, can come as vibration, can come as images, can come as just a sense of something is different. When we call light, when we experience light, the main thing that happens is something is different and it's better than it was a moment ago. So light is not a person. It's not even really a thing. When it comes to us, our vision changes, so it has effect. Right? It has effect. It has non-material substance in the sense that something comes and something happens. But it doesn't have a material substance like the floor that we are sitting under, like the chair I'm sitting on, even like your body. But it has vibrational effect. It is what we an aspect of it is what we call life force. Right? So when we call light, when I call light to me, automatically I am enhancing, adding to, augmenting my own inherent life force. So the ability to call light, experience light, receive light, and embody light automatically will make you healthier. Whatever you're going through, whatever your problems may be, whatever moment you're in, when you learn this art of embodying light, everything gets better, because the vibrational rate of everything is raised. So here's something that we teach, and I'm gonna give you a little demonstration here. This is like a junior high school. I'm going to do a demonstration speech now, because in order to do what I'm asking you to do is what we teach in our classes. What I say is this: how our life is, how we see everything, experience everything, is based on the goggles we wear. The filters that we see life through. So you know this. If you're in a moment when what you would call depressed, right? Basically everything sucks. And everything shows up to show you just how sucky everything is. And if you're in a moment of expansion, everything can be beautiful, right? Even the things that 10 minutes ago were ugly are beautiful. But it's more than that. We live with goggles on and we see life. So, look, some people have this. Some people's goggles are like this. And they only distort a little bit. And they protect the wearer from anything touching them, from the water getting in your eyes. But then you see things distortedly. And then some people walk around blind, bumping into things all the time, right? Being able to sleep, but totally cut off from the light. And then there are some people that are just doing weird things. And just seeing the world really distorted. What we're doing is we are putting on particular goggles also. I don't even claim that they're better, except that they let us see light. Pardon me. And they let us see unity. Are they a distortion? Everything in the human realm is at least a little bit distorted by the fact that that everything that we think, everything we experience, needs to be filtered through this particular body, through this vehicle, which is in and of itself a filter. But depending on literally, not figuratively, where we are coming from, look what I'm doing with the chakra that we are radiating through, where I'm living, life will reflect the energy of that particular center to me. When I put on the goggles that we're talking about, that allow me to understand that light is everywhere, and what I'm doing is calling a particular column of it to me, that filter will allow me then to learn that particular art. If the goggles I have on say, no, that can't be, all there is matter, or the goggles that I have say, no, that's not okay because it doesn't come with an ideological overview, because whatever, I'm not saying Jesus every other word, or I'm not holding the Quran up correctly, or I'm not wearing the right clothes, then the way that light comes to me, because it'll come anyway, is more distorted, and then is distorted a lot through that ideological filter, or it's knocking on the door, knocking on the door, knocking on the door, but the cacophony of my ideological thoughts is so loud that I can't answer the door. So I'm not asking you to give up your ideology if you have one. I'm not even asking you to change your filter. I'm saying for a minute, for the purpose of this here, put on a different filter. Assume that there is a universal light. Assume there is a source of that light that radiates, I would say, from the heart of the divine. You can say from the sun, behind the sun, behind the sun, behind the sun, or however you frame it. From the ocean of consciousness, from the numinous. Doesn't matter. It does not matter. The words we use don't matter. What matters is that we can have an experience that can increase our health, increase our happiness, open our hearts, and give us a way to navigate on earth through the seas of confusion, through what can be the seas of darkness, through the seas of so many thoughts and so many emotions and so many ideas that are filtering all around. So we are here, for instance, in the miracle, right? What we're doing right now is a miracle. There are almost 100 of us in various places around this country, around this world, communicating right now. That is an incredible miracle. The other part of the miracle is there are many, many, many thoughts. There are many ideas. There are many concepts. There are many, 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 many opinions flying around. How do I know which ones are mine to follow? How do I know what to believe? What's my reference in this sea of all of this? I'm suggesting that as I have learned, and the people who work with us have learned, how to call, embody, be guided by, be healed by light, we have a tool. Number one, we have a tool. Number two, we have a referent. And number three, we have a path. And number four, we have a way to live our lives that undercuts all of that stuff. Right? Because what light teaches us is truth can change. Truth is not static. There are universal truths. Love is a universal truth. These divine forces are universal truths. But on the earthly level, what is true, what my concepts are, what my beliefs are, can change and do change as I evolve. That's what's supposed to happen. We are supposed to be evolving, growing, learning creatures. It is a great moment when in the illumination of my embodiment of light, I realized that what I thought was true was not true at all. It's an incredibly liberating moment. First of all, because I'm closer to something that is a universal truth. And second of all, I am not identified with my own need to be right. What an incredible gift to realize that there is truth beyond my own little truth, and that my need to be right is a sickness. But to do that, I have to have another reference point. I have to have something to even believe in, but that belief needs to come with experience. There needs to be something that happens. Look what I'm doing with my hands. There needs to be something that I feel in my heart that says to me, oh, that's true. Oh, that's true. So what light does is it awakens our inner truthometer, which has its partner, your inner bullshit meter. So that you can know by the feeling of it, by the experience of it, what is true for you, also what is true for someone else that may not resonate with you, but because the light, because your referent is the light, which is universal, I can also see in that other person where they are, what their truth is, why they need to be in that truth, and I can meet them in a place of the heart where we can even agree to disagree, agree to be in process, or agree to not even have a conversation, because what the light shows me is there may not be a place of the heart available at this moment. So let me expand on this a little. Like, why would you want to go through, I hope I've made it clear, but I'm going to make it even more clear. Why would one want to learn this art of embodying light? Because, look, here's what I can tell you. There will come a time when the connection to light will come in a thought, with a thought. But at the beginning, you got to sit down, you got to meditate, you got to breathe in your heart. I'm going to teach you how to do it, right? Hoping that you'll come back and we'll have more time to do this together. Right? If you can get it in an hour and a half, good for you. You're going to be teaching other people. But in the meantime, why would you want to do it? You got a lot of things on your plate. There's a lot of people asking for your time. There's a lot of people asking for your money. There's a lot of things you can do, probably that you do now. I'm suggesting let's add something to it. So why would you want to invest that time? The first reason is because it's going to help you with external situations. Let's start with relationships. All right? Every relationship goes through difficult moments because every relationship is lived through the filters that each one in the relationship has. Right? So at the beginning of a romantic relationship, we blast through those filters and we adopt an idea, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing, it's a fun thing, of being in love. But then after a while, each one's filter come back into play. How do we navigate that? Right? So there's lots of different ways. There's therapies, there's books, there's all kinds of different ways of navigating that. One way is when we learn to embody light, and that is our referent. I am no longer looking as much as, at least as much, to that other person for my validation. Right? What I need in me is connection with light. For me at this point, the most painful moment doesn't happen anymore. But it did. When I was learning this, there were moments when I felt totally cut off from light. It was the worst experience. I have to say, even worse than the difficult moments with my beloved wife. Because the experience of light makes my life worth living. And it's literally like when the light, when I forget, it's like the light, somebody turned the rheostat way down. So I can't even hardly see the person I'm in a relationship with. I'll give you an example. So I'll give you an example also on a practical level then of how employing light in a relationship works. A few months ago, my wife Jane and I, who have been together now 47 years, had the same fight that we've been having for 47 years. Anybody who's been in a long-term relationship, you know what I'm talking about. There's the fight that you have, and you think, oh, we made it, and then you have the same fight again. So this was a little bit disappointing for me. I was actually super bummed out about it, and I was just in a terrible funk. What I do have, because I've worked it, and even before that I was working it, is my relationship with my guides. So this happened in a morning. It was last March, and I went around the day with a black cloud around me, but through that cloud, literally about every 2 minutes, I heard a voice that said, call light right now. At first I was like, I'm not calling light. I'm not going to call the light. What good is the light going to do me? But I was so miserable that I thought, okay, I'm going to call light. And I called light, and I would feel like really okay for probably 30 seconds. And then I went back into because it was totally, my ego was, I was ashamed, and I was angry, and I was all that stuff that I'm sorry to say, just because I call light doesn't mean I don't still have all those human things. We still have all those human things. So through that entire day, and I'm not exaggerating when I said I'll say it was at least 100 times, my guide would say, call light right now. And I would call light, as I know how to do, and it would open. And over the day, the period of time that I was connected to light got a little longer, and the space between having to call it and forgetting got a little longer. And finally, by the end of the day, all that stuff lifted. My wife and I laughed about it. I wish I could say that calling light solved the problem. We're never going to have that fight again. That's probably not true. But we laughed about it. And we reconnected, and it became, because our referent is the light. Our referent isn't that fight anymore. That's part of being human. So one thing that being able to call light does, when you remember, and so along with the connection with light, right? I hope everybody understands, and if you don't, come and study with us. We're going to talk about this. You have authentic guides. You have consciousnesses, however you frame it, that are subparts of you, that are beyond you, that are from other lives, that are part of the 70% of you that's not incarnate, that are part of your spiritual family. However you frame it, you have those helpers. And as I said, they can ride the surfboard, you know, the comic of the Silver Surfer, right? So the surfboard, the cosmic surfboard, is the light, and then here comes your guide riding right on that light. So when I remember to call that light, it makes me accessible. It's like the phone line is open and the static is gone. And so I can also connect with those helpers who also come to the same place that the light does, to my heart. Another thing that happens when I connect with light, when I call the light, when I embody the light, is I am in touch with my own higher self. That's another thing we can talk about at another time. There's an aspect of me which is the one who is learning all of this stuff that I'm learning, that sometimes I struggle to learn. Right? A part of me, my own higher self. Right? That is an aspect of me also that is a guide. That is the part of me that is beyond this life, has learned in many, many lives. And that part of me is connected with my higher prayer, which in my case, and I think in your case, is for peace, for truth, for calm, for healing, for unity. Right? That's the prayer of the heart. And when we connect with our heart, that becomes our prayer also. My prayer is, I want to live in my heart. My heart's prayer is, let's make some peace. Let's make some unity. Let's do what's in the highest good of all beings. So my higher self has the ability to guide me specifically in how that can be actualized in my life. It is in the opening of my connection to light that I have access to that higher self. So on a very practical level, if I'm in a relational moment, not only with the people I'm intimate with, but also with strangers or friends or co-workers, there are moments when there are delicate moments when there's something that needs to be said, and there's many things that could be said. There are things I can say from my ego, so my ego may be super shy and I won't say anything, when in fact what needs to be said is something that is difficult, some truth. Or if you're like me, I can, as they would say, jump in someone's shit just because for 2 seconds it tastes so good, and it actually can destroy a moment, destroy a relationship, and there may be a moment or two when it's appropriate. How do I know? I know because when I am connected to the light, when I am centered in my heart, I can ask inside me in the very moment of the conversation, in the very moment of the conversation, the very moment of the challenge, what should I say? You all are helping us do that. So let's come back right now. Everybody who's here, breathe in your heart. Let's reset the space here, because that's the space that's helping me say what needs to be said today. I appreciate that very much. Okay, so I'm going to go back. The truth is I don't quite know exactly where we lost our signal. We didn't lose the light, but we lost the internet signal for a moment. But I'm going to talk about this one thing that I was talking about because it's super important. One thing the connection with the light does is it will help guide you as to what to say and what not to say. Most of us have one of two distortions in how we speak. We either don't say what needs to be said, or we say too much. In other words, we end up attacking, over verbiaging, not saying just too much, or we hold back. Both of those things are not good for the person doing it. most particularly when there are things that need to be said that are hard to say and I hold back in my throat, this causes us difficulty. This causes us illness. This causes us to be repressed, leads to all kinds of illnesses. Also, it makes our relationships lies. The other way we go is we say too much because it tastes good to our own words, taste good in our mouth, particularly if they can be aggressive and they can be angry and they can be trying to win points. The truth is, from that, there will never be peace, there will never be resolution. There can be winners and losers, and we can see around us today the distortion of that idea. What if we want something else? What if we want to be agents of peace? What if we want to be agents of coming to harmony and understanding? Right? The light, our link with the light, links us with our higher self, which sees beyond this moment, which sees the whole plan and plane of our lives, and can guide us in every word that we say or don't say. From my point of view, the most important message that I get from in those moments is shut up, be quiet, wait, calm, peace, patience. Patience is a very hard one for me. Maybe it is for you. I would bet that everybody listening here has some version of one of those two tendencies: to hold back the truth or to override the truth, to over-truth tell, which usually has to do with anger and aggression. The other thing that happens to all of us these days, right? Most especially those of us who come to realize that we are tuning forks, we are mediums, we are sensitives, we live in a sea of consciousness and a sea of thought forms, and we are buffeted by them. I'll refer to what I said earlier. The internet is full of this. Almost all of us, we're on our phones, we are on computers. But even without that, because we are antennas that pick up thought forms, of which there are so many, and so much division, and so much conflict, we become the messengers of those. We become the actualizers of those thoughts. So how do I know what's mine? How do I know what's true? How do I know what isn't just me joining in the loud chorus of opinion that is shouting in every place today? It needs to not shout in at least one place, which is here in my heart. And it's the light that will clean this body, that will clean this vehicle, so that I can access that which is true for me. So that's another thing. When I learn the art of calling light serves not only to illuminate, but also it serves like a waterfall. That's why light is only one little description, huh? It's a word we use. But light is also a waterfall of energy, right? It's a waterfall of energy that comes and fills my aura, fills my vehicle, and acts like a waterfall. Sometimes acts like a washing machine. It swirls and it moves and it cleans the thought forms that I'm carrying in the various layers. Look what I'm doing with my hands. In the various layers, in the various places in my auric field. The light creates a counter vibration that raises the vibrational level of those thought forms. My job And this is the training that we do, is to learn to center myself in my heart, to find my inner alignment. I'm going to teach you a little bit more about this in a moment. And then be the observer, participant in that job that light does of cleaning me. What does that do? That makes the process of my healing, the process of my awakening, the process of my living a full life on earth, which is what I came to do, much more easy. It facilitates that because I'm clean. Now, I don't know about you. I know some of y'all, and you know what I'm talking about. I have a tendency to be flypaper and walk through the world picking up the flies of thoughts, and they cling to me. One of the things that happened to me along the way of the answer to that original prayer of, hey, I want something more, was I began to be cleaned of all the many thoughts, the emotional blobs that I carried in my bodies, all in many layers. And as that happened, I realized that there was always, had been underneath all of that, a me, and under the me, the mystery of consciousness, that had carried all that, but wasn't that. That there were levels of me that were absolutely intact, absolutely pristine, had been preserved and protected all along, while I was gathering all that and walking around with a lead suit on of pain. And as I began to connect with the light began to act like a waterfall, act like a whirlpool, act like a washing machine, clearing those thoughts, those emotions from my field, and my own healing process accelerated exponentially. Accelerated exponentially. So there it is. Now, let me add a few other things that the light, right? I'm selling light here, right? There are a few other things that need to be explained. Right? Some more internal situations. Right? Adjunctive to what I already said. You know those voices that you got inside you? Well, here's one of the tricky things about opening to light. When you open yourself to light, sometimes those voices multiply. Because what the light does is also make you available to what is behind the veils of consciousness that we all live with. The veils of consciousness exist for a reason. We are meant to be a human having a human experience. But we get intimations of other dimensions. We get messages that come in our dreams, that come in our meditations, that come in that moment between waking and sleeping. And we get, on the unconscious level, we have all kinds of different voices, some of which then make themselves conscious. You know, the classic thing of, you got the devil on one shoulder and the angel on the other, and they're talking to you this. We have the thing that they're talking to you, one saying one thing, one saying another. We have the thing that many people do on the one hand, but on the other hand. On the one hand, I want to change my life. On the other hand, I'm scared. On the one hand, you have your one hand and the other hand. And when we open ourselves to light, it's not instant, everything is fine. There's a process where we become more available, more conscious, more aware, first of all the voices that have been there all along in the different places, trying to influence us and telling us all kinds of different things. And we become available to different voices that come from the sometimes competing consciousnesses that are trying to influence us and influence the earth through us. That's just a fact of spiritual reality. How do I know who to listen to? How do I know? So I'm going to deviate very slightly from the theme of light, but I'm going to augment it with another story. When I started my own process of connecting with light, which also became the process of opening my healership, which is another thing we're going to talk about in a minute, I became like an antenna, and I had many voices talking to me, many voices with them. And it started to get pretty gnarly for a while. I started to feel like I was like in a cartoon where I had people pulling this way, and some they were pulling this way, and pulling this way, pulling this way. So I didn't know what to do, and it became quite disturbing for a little while. And one day, we were living in Boston, and I was in my treatment room where I had my healing practice. And I was in one of those moments when there were no clients there. It was before my day. And I was in one of those moments when I felt, I will tell you quite honestly, a little bit like I was going crazy. I knew I wasn't. I knew I wasn't psychotic, or I would have been already. But I felt quite disturbed. And I stopped, and out of me came a voice, an inner voice of mine that said, if you can get to my heart, I will listen to you. If not, go away. And in that moment, 90% of it stopped. 90% of the voices stopped. So, the commitment to call light has to be based on, joined with, the commitment to access, know, live in your heart. They have to go together. Otherwise, the light is illuminating everything, but you don't have any way to discern what's what. Because light is neutral. Light doesn't have an opinion. It doesn't have an ideology. It doesn't like you better than somebody else. It doesn't like Donald Trump better than it likes Kim Jong-un. Light is light. It is my responsibility, it is your responsibility to create the basis in myself, the platform from which to receive light. Let me say a little bit also then about the opening of healership. Right? Because light, although it doesn't have an ideology, the ones who are bringing light have an agenda. The agenda is, we're in a moment on earth where there's lots of light needed. Right? Because there is so much darkness, thought darkness, mental illness, ego running wild, confusion, even good intentions, which most people have, being obscured by all that other stuff. Lots of light needed everywhere. Everywhere. Can you think of a place that can't use the light of illumination, that can't use the light of peace, that can't use the light of love? I can't. There's no place I could be where that would be unnecessary. So the agenda is, we are being urged to learn these arts, to learn this art of embodying light. That means that each one of us is being called to be a healer. A healer, a true healer, is a transmitter of light into whatever situation you are called to be. A true healer is one who is a transmitter of light, who puts themselves consciously standing on the earth, connecting to the world of spirit, channeling light into whatever situation you are called to be in. So there are healers who put their hands on people, who pray over people, who put needles in people, who are surgeons, who are lawyers, who are teachers, who are parents, who are in every place. What happens when we develop a relationship with light, because it is a relationship, is our healership, our natural gifts open. And usually it's quite surprising to us what they are, which is one hint that what your experience is authentic light and not just coming from your ego. If what happens when you feel that you're opening to these forces is exactly what you thought was going to happen, be suspicious. If it's surprising to you and you find yourself being called to places and situations and relationships and discovering parts of yourself that you didn't expect, that's a pretty good sign that you're in touch with the spiritual forces, because the spiritual forces are not particularly interested in what your ego wants. They're interested in what your soul wants. They're interested in what your inner being wants. They're interested in what your higher self wants. And they want to augment that within the plan, which is to create harmony. Right? The universe runs harmoniously. Although there are cosmic explosions and there are cataclysms, everything is held within the spiritual forces, the energetic forces, that hold the universe, all the universes, in harmony. Light is what infuses all the universal harmony, maintains it. It is the referent for all creation. So when I learn to be in harmony with that, I am, by definition, energetically, not conceptually, in touch with that harmony. I become part of that harmony in the moment when I call light, in the moment when I embody it, in the moment when I open to it. I am in harmony with the entire universe. So, okay. I hope you have questions. I hope the next time we get together, which will be we're going to do some more of these classes. They'll flash on the screen and you'll be able to connect and hopefully join us in the future. But that's what I want to say. That's my introduction. My introduction to light. So here's what we're going to do now. We're going to call some light. That's what we said we're going to do, and that's what we're going to do. Let me repeat something that I said earlier. Eventually, when you call light, it's just one thought, one breath, and it comes. Because why? Because you have created in your own field, by putting on the goggles, by seeing the universe, by seeing your life, by seeing yourself, by seeing your bodies, through the filter of this particular awareness, you will build into yourself a thought form, an automatically activatable thought form, that as soon as you think it, as soon as you breathe it, as soon as you call it, it will adjust your energy bodies and light will come to you, because light's always there. See, that's the trick. It's not like it's somewhere else and you call it. It's there, available all the time. What you're going to do is learn how to focus it. Because, referring to what I saw on the beach, our responsibility as conscious vessels for the transmission of light is to learn how to call a focused beam of that light to come to me, through me, but to others also. I'll tell you another little story, how I learned this. My son at one point was living in Montana. He was living in Bozeman, Montana. We live in Oregon. And he called me one day and he said, "Dad, I really don't feel well. I'm not doing good. I don't know what's going on, but I just feel all loaded, and I'm just not having a good time. And so it came to me like this. I said his name, I said where he was, right? And I asked for a beam of light to come to him specifically, his name, where he was, exactly every detail I could give him, give the light. He called me the next day and he said, wow, I feel so much better. Wow, I'm doing good, thanks. I didn't do anything. Now, was it because I said he was in Bozeman, Montana, and I said his name? I don't know, but it seemed like a good idea. What happens is we gain a modicum of light. We gain the responsibility over a particular, let's say, quantity. It's not quite, but a particular concentration, focus of a light beam. And the more clean I become in my energy, the more committed I become to that, the more I follow it, the more that I develop the relationship, which is an inner relationship with light, the greater the amount of light that I am given to collaborate with. That's my experience. It starts out smaller because it's what I can handle. Because at the beginning, if I took into my field, right, the immensity of the universal light, I would just explode. So it's like developing a muscle. It's like learning yoga. You have to start with the simple postures because your bodies have to get used to a new alignment. You're starting a new sport, you're starting to play an instrument, you have to start with the basics. You can't jump in and at the highest level, you have to start slow. Because also in the learning, in the starting slow, we heal along the way. The reward for doing this job, for doing this mission of calling light is, I get healed. I get to be the commander of my vehicle. This vehicle. Okay, so I'm going to introduce you to a couple things. Some of you all know this, so you're going to do this, and even though you may not be sitting in the same room as everybody, you're going to show them on the inner planes. So, you have an aura, you have a vehicle. Right now, because I love you all, I'm about this big. Right? I can't see you all, but I think we've all been breathing together, and everybody's a little happier, everybody's calm. So your aura is wider than it was before. At the center, the very center of that configuration, right, which is made up of threads of light, threads of energy, right? That's what we are. We are made up of threads of energy. Even your physical body is just energy that's more condensed into a particular form. So at the center of all that, right down in front of your spine, goes all the way through, bottom to top, top to bottom, is a tube of light, a tube of vibrating energy. It is enhanced by light. It's made up of 50% energy that came from the earth, 50% of energy that came from the cosmos. You are a child of the Father and the Mother, joined together in your center, a braid. Right? The Indians call the central channel the Sushumna, made up of these two braids of earth and heaven. So you are, at your center, you have that. It's not you, it's what is at the center of your body. Also, you need to be grounded. It is a bit counterintuitive because we are calling something that comes from beyond the earth, from the source of light, to come to us. But it's not that we go up to meet it, it is that we get grounded and we get embodied and we get fully present in order to open the door. You've got to be in your house to open the door when the visitor comes. It's very hard for some of us Many people who come to work with us have a great challenge. The challenge is not to go up into the higher realms. The challenge is to ground on earth, because we have been the people who were so sensitive that being on earth felt like a punishment. And many of us have been wounded through that sensitivity. But that's the task. So the healing that's required in order to embody light, to become the vessel of light, means part of it is I got to get into my body. I have to feel my feet. I have to connect my first chakra to the earth and breathe in my center and come to my heart. So do that. However you're going to do, feel your feet on the ground. If you're sitting, your first chakra comes right out of the most bottom, your perineum, and connects down between your feet into the earth. That's a little more difficult for you all than the heart thing. I can feel it. Some people can do it. Some people it's harder to do. That's part of what we learn to do in our trainings. Is this configuration that I'm guiding you to right now. Takes time, takes work. Some people it's easy, some people it's much harder. I had to work at it for years in order to be able to do it. Then, find your center. Breathe. Imagine, see, feel that you have a tube of vibration that goes from the bottom, comes right, your first chakra is an extension at the bottom. It goes right up your center, and goes through the top of your head, and your crown chakra is an extension of it on top. Okay, now, open your eyes, and I'm going to look, and here's what I'm going to show you. Look at my hands. They're going to be behind my head. I'm going to turn around for a second. I know you don't do that in these things, but I'm going to turn sideways. Right here and here, see what I'm talking about on you. You have a chimney that comes straight up like this, goes all the way to the top of your aura, goes this way, built into your aura, different than your crown chakra. It's not your crown chakra. It's like this. This is where light is going to come down into and fill you up like you're a jar. Light is going to come like this, right down here. Okay? So here's what we're going to do together. You're going to sit, feel your feet on the ground. Now you can close your eyes for a minute. Or you can look at me. I'm just going to be doing what I'm telling you to do. Your feet are on the ground. You're feeling the earth. Wherever you are, even if you're sitting in a high-rise apartment building somewhere, you can feel through the earth. The earth is waiting for you. Feel the earth underneath you. Breathe in your center. Go back to the beginning. Put one hand gently right over your heart. You're touching the place of calmness. Breathe in your heart. Imagine, feel, sense that tube that's up the back. Now, under your hand, feel your mouth right under your hand and say, I call the light to me right now. Do it again. This time close your eyes for sure. I call the light to me, to this vehicle, to say your name inside yourself. Your name in this life, grounded in your bodies. I call this light to me. I ask my guides to bring me this light, to teach me. Keep breathing. Keep breathing. Now here's something to be aware of. Each one of us perceives the light slightly differently. Maybe you're going to see, even with your eyes closed, like someone just turned up a big bulb right inside you. Maybe you're just going to feel something. Maybe you feel a tingle. Maybe something shifts. Don't let your mind and your ego say, well, yeah, I don't know, I don't get it. You're getting it. Everyone on this call, on this class that we're doing, the light is coming to you. I guarantee it, because that's the promise. If you call it, it will come. Like that. Now, in this space, bring into your awareness a problem that you've been working on. In you. Start with in you. Something that you've been confused about. Something that you've needed illumination about. Something that's been causing you distress. Don't choose the big one yet. Call light to that. Call light to that problem. Don't figure it out. Just put it into the light. Breathe it in your heart. Put that problem under your hand in your heart. And just let the light radiate it, and just be the observer of what happens, what you realize, what you see, what you feel, what you hear. There you go. Now, bring same thing, an external problem, something in a relationship, something in your work, something in the world, something in your house, something that is not about your own inner process as much as it is a dilemma that is out, you're connected to, but outside you. Let the light shine on it. Of course, the concept is in you. You're bringing it to the light. But don't figure it out. Try something new. Don't figure it out. Just let the light shine on it. From your heart. Holding it with your heart. Like that. There you go. You don't have to do what you see, and it may not give you clarity, it may not resolve it, but it's going to give you clarity. I'll say it again, it may not resolve the problem, but it will put it into transformational mode, because light is life. And when we enliven the problem and observe it from a neutral place in our hearts, the problem transforms. It changes. And along the way, you might not like what it looks like or feels like, but it's in motion. The worst thing from my point of view is the stuckness. The going around and round and round, back to the one hand to the other hand, to the one hand to the other hand, to the one hand to the other hand. The light doesn't allow that. The light holds it in a neutral space. When you hold it in your heart and the light comes, it begins a process of, like I'm doing this, it transforms it, it moves it. You've been holding the clay like this, not knowing what to do with it, and it moves your hands to form, oh my God, it's a bowl in which I can hold everything. So this is what I want to impart to you today. We called some light together. Let's go back for a moment and just back to this place of the heart. Practice right now. Do it again. You got to practice. You know what they say? Practice, practice, practice. You have to do it. I had to do it in the day that my wife and I were fighting 100, 200 times. And I've been doing this for a long time. Today when I was sat down here, I thought, I breathed, went in my center, asked my guide to bring me light. There it was. That didn't come the first time I ever did it. Right? Anything worth gaining that is so precious is worth working for. If you don't have an altar in your house, make an altar in your house that you can sit in front of. It doesn't matter who it's dedicated to. Dedicated to light, dedicated to your healing, dedicated to your higher self, dedicated to your ancestors. Doesn't matter. Have a place that is your place when you sit down in front of it, when you stand in front of it, when you lie down in front of it. Automatically your thought goes, I want light. I call light. I ask for light. I demand light. It is your birthright. It doesn't matter what you did. It doesn't matter what you didn't do. It doesn't matter how crazy your inner life is sometimes. It doesn't matter. You deserve light. Light comes to everybody where it is called, without exception, without judgment, and without any price that is paid, except that you're going to begin to transform. You're going to be able to contact your heart. You may have lots of tears to cry, but you also have lots of laughs to laugh. You're going to see a lot of things that are not that important to you anymore, because the light's going to show you what's true and what's necessary. So you may have to let go of some things that you thought you loved. But what you gain is that sense of harmony, that sense of truth, that sense of knowing yourself in relation to this universal light. So on the one hand, you're way smaller than your ego wants you to believe you are. But you're part of something way, 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 way more vast than your ego could ever imagine. So, I'm going to end you at, actually, so I put on the mask of the Star Wars mask, and now I'm going to sing a song for you to end. Okay? This is a song, it's very simple. And I received it in the force of the light. Okay? Take a little drink of water here. If we were doing a real internet thing, I'd pull out a guitar, except I don't know how to play guitar. So here's how it goes, like this. This light surrounding you, it comes to set you free. This light surrounding you, it comes to set you free. Let it in your heart connect you to eternity. Let it in your heart connect you to eternity. This light surrounding you, it will join you to me. This light surrounding you, it will join you to me. Don't let it dissipate, call it clearly and firmly. Don't let it dissipate, call it clearly and firmly. That's the message. That's the message I wanted to give you. That's the message of the Essential Light Institute. We exist 100% to teach this art of living in the heart, embodying compassion, which will be the theme of the 3-part web class that we're going to do in December. To teach the art of embodying the universal principles that all true spiritual paths talk about. All true spiritual paths not only have light at their center, but basically have the same teachings, just different layers of the same teachings. And people who are drawn to the different paths are learning the particular permutation of spiritual truth in the way that that particular path delivers it. That's the only difference among them. What we teach is how to do it. What we do is not in conflict with any true spiritual path, with any healership, with any form of healing. What we do enhances, brings the heart, brings the light, and then teaches the people who work with us how to access their own inner healership. We are interested in empowering you, as some of you know. Hopefully some of you will have learned today a little more. Empowering people to be the collaborators with the divine forces on earth at this time. So, as our guide, Agya Branca White Eagle says, may you be blessed with the peace of Christ in your hearts. May you know yourself as that peace. May that peace and this light guide you, heal you, comfort you, show the way to your true destiny. Thank you for joining me. I'm honored. I hope this has been of use. Let us know. Write to Shannon. Let her know how this impacted you, with any suggestions you have and any questions. Right? And the next time that we all get together, I hope we all will get together, I can answer some of those questions for you as best I can. The true answer is going to come from your connection with light. I can tell you my point of view. Thank you. Amen.